Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and today I'm doing editor's pick decks. Decks you recommend for this or that prompt. It was created by Nova Mundi Tarot and Simon from the Hermit's Cave, who I'll link below. And I first saw the tag on Mad Witch's channel, Giselle's. So I'll link hers below too. It's good fun. So this might be fairly lengthy, fair warning. It's 15 prompts, which I'll also put down below. The first one is the best deck for inner child work. A deck you recommend for inner child healing, one that feels safe, nurturing, and playful, ideal for reconnecting with innocence, creativity, and emotional truth. And for that, I picked one of my all-time favorites, probably my all-time favorite, really, just stuck in the bottom of the tin, which is the Gentle Tarot. This is the sweetest tarot I own. It does deal with some difficult things, though, but it deals with the difficult things in a very gentle, caring sort of way. It's a very kind deck. So I feel like even if you need emotional truths, if you're feeling a bit vulnerable, this is a good one. I do also feel like it's very childlike and playful. And it just reminds me of, building a fort under spruce trees and collecting rocks in a margarine tub or whatever other shenanigans I got up to outside when I was a kid. Love it. The next one is Shadow Work, a deck that's powerful for helping readers face their shadows. Honest, deep, and unafraid to confront the difficult. This is your recommendation for deep transformation and self-inquiry. So I don't do Jungian shadow work, really. That's not my cup of tea. But I do work with decks that look at the darker side of life and the darker side of yourself and that sort of thing. So one that I would use for that is the Somnia Tarot, which actually I wasn't going to get for the longest time. And I kept seeing it around and kept going, ooh, nope, not for me. And then I did end up getting it once, and I'm so glad I did. It's beautiful. The photography is gorgeous. It is a bit disturbing because all the faces are covered in these sort of shrouds. So I did have to, even before I could use this for any other sort of playing in the dark, did have to deal with the fact that I found it a bit disturbing just in itself. And for some reason, now I don't find it as disturbing. It's still, I can still look at it and go intellectually, that's disturbing. But I'm not as viscerally put off by it as I used to be, which is an interesting development. Interesting. Yeah, did I pull this out this winter? I don't recall. I might not have. Should have done. Oh well. Yep, I can see why people don't like this, but I actually really appreciate it. So that is the Somnia Tarot. The next prompt is Deity Work, or Spirit Guides, a deck that serves as spiritual bridge building for work with deities, spirit guides, or higher realms. It holds sacred energy and supports devotional practice or channeled messages. And for this one, I picked the Witch Sisters Tarot, which I do use for journeying or hedge crossing or path working or whatever you want to call it. It's the deck that I use, excuse me, most for that sort of thing. It's really effective and powerful and wild. It's a little bit dangerous, but I love it. Not so much for work with spirit guides or deity, but the other realms, I guess I would say, is where this takes me. I love her. Yeah. So that is the the realms or deity work. So you probably could use it for deity work, I just don't myself. Next is Ancestor Work, a deck you'd suggest for connecting with ancestral wisdom, whether lineage healing or honoring those who came before. This one opens the path to ancestral connection. I feel like this is going to be really personal for everybody, but for me it's ended up being the Lioness Oracle Tarot, which I think she created while she was dealing with grief of losing, I can't remember if it was her father or what it was, who it was. But somehow this has become connected with my grandmother for me, and through her to other ancestors as well. That was not intentional. I didn't set out to like try to use decks for that. It just sort of happened. Whoops. And now this is what it's connected to. I don't know that it would work that way for everybody, because everybody's, connections with their ancestors are so personal. But it really works well that way for me. Couldn't even tell you why. Like, there's nothing about that that screams anything to do with my specific ancestors, but it really works somehow. This a little bit more so. But, there's nothing inherent in the flowers or the styles. I mean, my grandmother did love flowers, but not particularly roses. And yet, somehow, this is the Ancestors deck. Not really sure how that happened either, but sometimes you just gotta go with things. So this is the Lioness Oracle Tarot. It's so beautiful. Makes me want to have roses, except I just have a balcony garden, and I don't think they'd like it out there. Next is Divination, a deck that excels in traditional divination. Clear, direct, and accurate. This is your top pick for those seeking predictive insight or practical answers. And for that, so I don't tend to do a lot of predictive reading. That's just not my general thing. But if I did need to, I would use the Marseille. And I've got the Gay Marseille here. I've got a couple of Marseille decks, none of them traditional. I've got the 7th Sphere one. And this one, I love this one. It's so much fun. And somehow much easier to work with for me than, I mean, I haven't worked with super traditional Marseille decks, but I just connect with this much more. And I love the colors in it much, much more than the traditional ones. And so if I ever did need something clear and direct and predictive, this would be the one I'd use. I love this card. And this one. Yep. Ooh, strawberries. Yep. That'd be the one. Although I don't use it as often as I should. I'm a little bit intimidated still by Marseille, but I'll get more into it eventually. There's no deadline on this journey. Okay, so as above, a deck that connects the reader to cosmic or spiritual realms, ideal for soul work, life path exploration, or messages from the higher self. It speaks to the divine. It speaks to the divine perspective. Tripped over that last sentence. The one I picked for this is the Moonchild Tarot. So I don't work with much that I consider divine, unless I consider everything in nature divine. But this is the most sort of cosmic deck I think that I own, I guess you could say. So for soul work or whatever, this would be interesting. I have used it for, oops, come on now. There's a pleasure alchemy deck out there that I've used this with. To try and deal with some, I guess you could call that sort of inner work, inner child work, shadow work, whatever you want to call it. Fundamentalism will do a number on you. So that was useful for that. And I haven't used it for a heck of a lot since. I may use it for that again at some point. And if I ever needed something for soul work, this would be Definitely a contender. This is the only Daniel Noel deck I have, I think, because most of the rest are too star-seedy for me, which doesn't really float my boat, but this one, I like this one. Okay, next is So Below, a deck you recommend for grounded, real world readings. This one captures everyday emotions, human experience, and earthly wisdom with clarity and depth. So, okay, I'm not sure about everyday anything, but this is the So Below pick with the Primordial Tarot. So it's very grounded to me, even though it's got a bit of different elements in it as well. But it's very much in the mud, in the muck of the human experience. And so it might not deal with everyday situations, but I think it can deal with everyday emotions, especially when they're not nicely presentable. And earthly wisdom with clarity and depth. Yeah, there is a depth to this. I'm not sure if there's a clarity, but there's a depth. A bit of a muddy depth. So perhaps this only halfway fulfills the prompt, but I've started using it lately and I'm really enjoying it. It's a strange one, but it's got something sort of visceral, something, I don't know, fundamental about being a human animal or something. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, so this is the Primordial Tarot. Next question is a hug deck. A deck that offers emotional support and comfort, gentle, compassionate, and soothing. This is a deck that feels like a warm hug for anyone going through a tough time. Now, I could have picked the Gentle Tarot for this too. It would definitely qualify, but I'd already used that for a different prompt, so I picked the Thistledown Oracle, which is just, look at that. That is too perfect. So yeah, when you're going through something, it's so sweet and gentle. And not everything is, you know, love and light and all that, because that's just not what the world is like. But it's beautiful. And even in dealing with difficult things, there's a gentleness to it that I really appreciate. I think that's gorgeous. That's very cute as well. I love all of these decks, really any of these Oak, Ash, and Thorn decks. What's their company called? Hang on. Three Trees Tarot. Any of the Three Trees Tarot decks could fit this very, very nicely. This makes me want fall, even though it's just spring. Okay. Next is a feel-good deck, a deck that uplifts, encourages, and energizes, whether through color, artwork, or message. This one is perfect. A perfect feel-good recommendation for readers who want joy and empowerment. Okay, so joy and empowerment is what I'm going with here, which is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer Tarot. This is the one with the old guidebook, which is not accurate, but apparently the mini and the mega ones have updated guidebooks. I think if you buy this regular size one, it still has the guidebook with incorrect entries. That's what I've heard anyway, so. But, I mean, I know the show well enough. I'm not sure I need an accurate guidebook. I mean, I would have preferred that, because every now and again there'll be a character I'm like, who is that? But, or what episode was that from? Like this. She is very familiar, but I can't remember her name. So, you know, for things like that, it would be handy. But for most things, you know, I'm familiar enough. Oh, Jenny. That was a sad timeline. Storyline. Anyway, on the whole, this is just so much fun. The color palette is delightful. And the show is just a riot. Even when it's sad, it's fun and entertaining and just a sort of joyous experience. And yeah. Yeah, That was not a joyous episode, but it's just like the colors in this just make me happy all by themselves. That's funny. So yeah, and I edged it in purple because I just need more purple in my life, apparently. And this is ideal for those days when I just need a bit of cheering up. Next is most versatile, a deck you recommend for handling any type of reading: love, career, shadow work, daily pulls, everything between. Reliable, flexible, and reader friendly. This is an all-rounder that adapts to every situation. And I considered picking something like the Light Seers or the Unfolding Path, except that probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the readings I do are less about real world experiences and more about spiritual experiences, creative experiences, emotional experiences, and less about like practical, mundane things. So for this one, I picked the Oak, Ash, and Thorn because I figured it could probably do everyday life and all those other things as well, in a way that maybe the ones that depict scenes of everyday life probably couldn't. Although, to be fair, I've never tried them for things like that. But this seems like I could do both. And it's very friendly. Like, it's not intimidating if somebody's, you know, a new reader. I don't think it's intimidating. I think it's very... Even if you don't know the meaning of the card, you can sort of read something into what's happening here. That's sweet. And I don't always view the Knight of Cups as sweet, but that's a very sweet Knight of Cups. I like him. Knight of Wands. Oh, with a bumblebee. Oh, so cute. Yeah, so this is the one I picked for most versatile because I figured it could probably do regular life, regular life plus irregular life, let's say. Okay, most inspiring. A deck you recommend to inspire creativity. Whoops, talk about difficulties. Inspire creativity. Good grief. Inspire creativity, intuitive flow, or personal transformation. Whether it's the art, energy, or depth of the messages, this one sparks something powerful in the reader. So at the moment, the one sparking creativity for me is the Sacred Bee Tarot, and also the Sacred Bee Oracle. I will never probably be able to remember which one is the Journey of the Sacred Bee and which one's the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee. They're kind of a matched set for me. So this is that, and I love them. They are beautiful and colorful and vibrant, which is exactly what I need at the moment. Just a bit of enthusiasm for life. And yeah, I think can inspire creativity. They're very energetic cards. And yeah, I'm still getting to know them because I've only been using them for a couple of weeks. They are, excuse me, they are very new to me. But the energy and vitality is there, so yeah. I'm enjoying this journey. Oops. Making a little mess. All right, next is, whoops, number 12. Best for beginners, a deck you'd confidently recommend to someone just starting their journey. Accessible, clear, easy to learn with. This one makes tarot feel inviting rather than intimidating. I mean, I think the Three Trees Tarot could do that. Light Seers could do that. Unfolding Path could do that. But I've talked about those a lot of times before. But also, my first deck was the, what's it called? Steampunk Tarot. Just the mini, because it was cheap. So if I didn't like it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And also, it's very RWS, despite not looking like that at first glance. And I appreciated that because most of the beginner guidebooks are RWS. So for that reason, I picked Dreaming in Situ because I just got it. So it's on my table. But also, it is surprisingly RWS. So if somebody was not drawn to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, which I wasn't. I do have a Rider-Waite-Smith deck now that I really only use for study. I never read with it because the images don't do anything for me, personally. But this has a lot of the imagery, a lot of the color. And I haven't actually used it yet, so I don't know how it reads. But it seems like if you aren't drawn to the RWS imagery, but are still just learning using a book that references RWS, this would be maybe the thing if you're into collage, although it's not very accessible from a price point, perhaps, because it is indie. But it's on my desk because it was a pre-order that just came in, so it's what I'm focused on at the moment. I'll have to play around with it and see how it actually reads. Anyway, that is Dreaming in Situ by Annie Farrar. And the next prompt is Best for Professionals, a deck you suggest for experienced readers who need depth, nuance, and strong symbolism, ideal for layered reading, spiritual insight, and working with clients at a professional level. Now, I'm not a professional reader, and I never intend to be. But it seems like the Maria Tarot could do all of these things. There's a lot of depth and nuance to these. Strong symbolism. Well, it's a Thoth deck, so there's symbolism coming out your ears. I don't remember all of it, but I know it's there. I'm not super comfortable with Thoth yet. I'm working my way in that direction, but this is basically a Thoth clone with feeling. And yeah, I enjoy it. Layered reading, spiritual insight, seems like I could do well with both of those. I don't know about working with clients because I've never done that. Maybe I don't know if they'd be a bit intimidated by it, or that that's just something that people who are familiar with Thoth a little bit feel. Like, I don't know if that would mean anything to anybody, or this one. But yeah, I enjoy this. I should keep it out and play with it a bit more. He's not quite my favorite, but anyway. Next is Witchy Vibes, a deck you'd recommend for those who love witchy aesthetics, moody vibes, magical symbolism, or spell work, support casting, altar work, etc. I mean, I think that the Witch Sisters would work well for that. But seeing as I've already picked that for one, I decided to go with the Ancestral Tarot because this is the 8th edition, which I did not pay obscene secondhand prices for, because if you get on her mailing list, you'll get an email the next time she prints it, which I assume she will do again at some point in the future. But I don't know, this is a bit Marseille, a bit witchy, a bit just kind of weird. But you could use this as an altar card. I've never used cards on an altar, but you know, it seems possible to use these ones for that. And I don't know, I'm not sure I could entirely define what feels witchy about it, but there's something that feels witchy about it. Like, that's a bit witchy. Come on. She could be a witchy movie character. Not sure what he's about. Also witchy. Definitely witchy. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't say exactly why this strikes me as witchy, but I get witchy vibes, and I'm not complaining. I was waiting for this for a long time, so I'm very glad to have one now. It's a lot of fun to use. So that is the Unasayos, or Honasa House, however you say that properly. And then the last prompt is Astrology Work, a deck you recommend for astrology lovers and cosmic seekers, one that weaves planetary wisdom and archetypes into the structure, ideal for exploring birth charts, transits, and celestial guidance. So I know almost nothing about astrology. It's not my cup of tea. But I do have the Heavenly Bodies Astrology deck, which I got when I wanted to know just sort of like the basics of what astrology was about. So I'm not super familiar with this deck, but I've kept it in case I ever want to learn it. So this is Mercury. So these might be, they've got a weird corner to corner bend, but oh well. These seem like they'd be good for just learning what all these things are, because I would have no idea what the 8th house is. I mean, I know it's a thing that exists, but I have a bit more idea what Pisces is, but like by hair. No idea what the North Node is. So, you know, if somebody was learning, if somebody was already experienced with these, this might be a redundant deck. I don't know. But I kind of like the artwork, so that's why I got it. And then I only sort of dipped my toes in it a little bit and decided it probably wasn't for me, but in case I ever change my mind, this will be the one astrology deck that I just keep in a corner, you know, just in case. You never know. So that's what I've got for editor's pick decks. Decks you'd recommend for other people. So if you want to do this tag, I'll leave Nova Mundi and Hermit's Cave accounts below. You can check them out. And Mad Witch, who is fantastic as well. And that's all I've got for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.